Now, before we begin with the next part of the series, I want to kind of quickly go over the concepts of forward kinematics and inverse kinematics. Um, you can you can kind of look up the terminology online, but essentially with forward kinematics, it's based on the joint's rotations. Just like in real life with our actual skeleton itself, our joints can move on rotations. We can rotate our wrists, etc., in various different locations. And automatically, when we create a joint hierarchy like this, it uses forward kinematics. So, for instance, I can move it, but what I can also do is press E and rotate it, and I can rotate the joints like so, which kind of has a bit more like a realistic kind of way of how bone structures kind of work. The other one is using inverse kinematics. Now, inverse kinematics is based on positioning slash location. So rather than me having to rotate it, I can just select the IK handle. If I can select it, there we go. And you'll see it'll go pink and you'll see this line through it. And I can move it up and down. You can kind of see we're getting a bend going on with this object. I can kind of move it around like so. You can get a bend going. When you're doing character animations, you want to work with both, and I'll be showcasing a way to actually have both forward and inverse kinematics. You can kind of turn it on and off. So, for instance, if you see like IK blend here, if I turn this to 0, if I try to select the if I try to select the IK handle now, you'll see that it just won't work because we turned it off. I had to press it to 1, turned it back on, and now I can move it around. We can create a blend shape in which we can switch on and off, and it's entirely up to you. You need to use it where appropriate. Now, when creating a IK handle, you need to make sure that I the joints have a little bit of a bend to them. That's so that the IK handles, the inverse kinematic handles, work appropriately. Sometimes if you have it straight and you try to add in inverse kinematics, it's not able to work and it'll bend in various different ways. So for instance, right now I've got a straight joint here. And to actually create inverse kinematics, if you go to the rigging tab, the third icon here, hover over it, it says create IK handle. And again, if you go to the rigging tab, go to skeleton, you can create IK handle there as well. So you click on IK handle, it's like the bottom one first, and the top icon, and that creates the IK handle. And you can kind of see, yeah, it looks like it's working correctly here, but sometimes it can create some awkward and incorrect positioning. So sometimes you might see that uh, the actual rotation of the joint is out of sync. But when it comes to characters, you need to make sure that you definitely have a little bit of a bend to it. So for instance, this is the first one. Got a slight bend, not too much, not too little, so just a little bit like that. And that's the perfect way of actually creating a IK handle, like so. And if I go to the outliner right now, you'll see that the IK handles don't actually fit into the hierarchies. They don't need to. They can just they will automatically be outside the hierarchy, and they do need to be out of the hierarchy in order to actually efficiently work. So you don't have to parent it or make it a child of any of the joints. They can just stand there outside as much as possible. And again, you might find you will need to name this as well. So for instance, if this was like the arm, you would call it the like right arm IK handle. And again, so it's always important to name your objects as well. And again, don't just rely on the IK handle. Some rotations you couldn't be able to do. So for instance, this right now, couldn't really do it with the IK handles. Not correctly anyway. It wouldn't really work the way that I want it. So for instance, you can see right now, if I were trying to create this particular bend, I can't really do it because again, this is based on positioning. If I was to rotate this, for instance, sure, it works completely fine. So don't rely too much on the IK handles. In the next video, what we will do is we'll start creating IK handles for our 3D character. We'll put them into his legs, we'll put them into his arms, and then from there we will create a blend shape in order to switch between forward kinematics and inverse kinematics.